Back again.
Here we are. Favourite time of the week. Having a cup of tea, having a chat.
Running a wee chai tea today.
Yeah.
So good.
Cup number. Who's counting? That's why I have in pots, you see.
Yes, I know. It's much. I'll get you one day. Get a fancy pot.
Yeah. I'll get you one.
Beautiful. We're gonna have a bit of a dig into your story today.
Yes. Yeah. Where do we begin? It's it's kind of funny to reflect, right? When you said this is what we're gonna do, and it's like, okay, yeah, like actually channeling back into what life was like, what was happening for me, and it was, I think it was like on the external, it probably looked largely under control, I'd say. Internally, it was chaos.
And that's quite often the case, right?
Yeah. So, had all the markings of being a fairly successful human being. I had the qualifications. I had great jobs. Was running a business, a successful business with other people. Arguably making more money than I ever had. Beautiful home, 2 healthy children, loving, supportive husband, and
So you had it all.
yeah. I mean, kind of where the gaps? Like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
I guess was a question I found myself asking myself a lot.
So that sounds like the lovely Instagram brochure version of Charlie's life. Now tell me the real version. What was happening underneath all of that?
Absolute despair and emptiness. I felt like almost in conflict with myself and with my life. Like I didn't feel any of the success. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like any of it was good enough. I didn't feel like any of it was nothing was bringing me any joy. There was no joy in stuff. So it was a very dark place, and so it kept me very distant from myself. Like it was really difficult to be with that version of me.
The real version, like the hurting version.
Yeah. So I would just numb that chick out, so if I wasn't distracting myself by being busy and working and being around other people or working out or doing anything to be actively moving and distracted, then I was numbing myself, and it was kind of either or of those states. It was basically because I can look back now and acknowledge that I was literally terrified of the quiet, of actually sitting with how I genuinely felt about my life and about myself. I was terrified of what I was
Who did you think was going to come out if you were still and quiet? Was that the fear of like who was actually, or was it just actually sitting with that version of you and letting her run wild in your head?
It was both, because I was so frustrated with myself for not feeling okay.
Mm.
Do you know, like I had basically been battling depression from when I was, you know, first diagnosed with it when I was about 18 or 19. And so it was, you know, it was just like this heaviness that I carried around all the time, and I was, you know, man, you're just sick of this, you know. But it's also the detachment from the things around, the people and the things around me, you know, like I used to beat myself up a lot about being, like, why can't you just be grateful for what you have, you know, like there was so much, I had this like ability to have the laser focus on things that were missing or weren't enough, or, you know, what was wrong with the situation, and I couldn't see or experience all of the good part of it. You know, like it's a little bit like getting the, you know, when you do your professional development review or whatever, you know, in your job, and I'd get sung all this praise, and then they'd be like, and maybe, you know, in this area you could slightly improve, and I would just,
that's all
all I could hear, and then that's what I would obsess about afterwards. And so that, you know, that's like an analogy for my life. It was like I honed in on and became pretty obsessed with things that weren't there or weren't good enough or didn't feel good, and it drove me crazy because I so wanted to be joyful and satisfied and grateful, and I just seemed to be unable to tap into that.
Yeah, and the more you where your focus goes, your energy flows. So
Yeah.
the more you think about wanting or not being grateful or not having the things that you want, the more you experience that, right? And it's a
Absolutely.
trap, and it's a loop. It's a vicious loop and a vicious trap. And if you have no idea how to get yourself out of that, that's the downward spiral, right?
And then you chuck substance use on the top of that, and you have got an absolute recipe for disaster, because essentially that sense of not being able to be with myself or be myself meant that when I then consumed alcohol and all my inhibitions fell away, like versions of me that I had crushed down and not allowed would come out, but in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
You know, in response to scenarios that, you know, didn't make any sense, right? But because I was so lost from who I was, and just in such, you know, just not allowing any exploration into really who I was. Yeah, I then had these other versions of me that then I was terrified of as well.
And again, they're not the true version of you. Like when you're drunk and like wild party Charlie comes out or whatever, like that's not you either, right? Like it's just a part of you that's coming out in like a dysfunctional way. Like you're fun and energetic and happy, and it comes out like in an unintegrated way, right?
So it was just, you know, it was just wrestling with myself, desperately wanting a way out, and terrified of what looking at myself would actually uncover. Do you know, like I had this sinking feeling that I was actually just a terrible person.
And then you drink to numb that, and then, you know.
And then behave like a terrible person.
And then reaffirm that. Told you.
See, that's your reality.
So dig the hole a bit bigger, a bit deeper. Yeah. And so, obviously that went on for many years. And then we had some babies in the mix, because that's a really fun time to, you know, have newborns and go through that. And then, obviously now you're sober. You're not drunk or consumed anything for how long now?
20 months.
Amazing.
Yeah.
20 months sober.
20 months sober.
Just to keep it, you know, open and honest. Like you weren't, to look at Charlie, most of us would probably think that her drinking and drugging, like you were smoking the odd joint, well, not the odd joint, it's probably more than the odd joint, but whatever, you weren't, to look at you, we would all probably say that was an acceptable amount of alcohol potentially for what our society portrays as normal amounts of drinking, right? Like it's, you weren't coming home every night and downing 6 bottles of wine and,
No.
you know, like just so it wasn't that extreme, right?
Well, I think that's, that was definitely,
If you think about an alcoholic and a drug addict, like people go to,
the stereotypical idea
Yes.
of what we think that person looks like or is or what they're doing. Yeah, it's, I think it's one of the greatest myths, right? It's probably just, television and, the extreme examples of what might be seen on news and stuff. But like, the reality is, for me, what I've come to accept that addiction, like I am a recovering addict and I was addicted to escaping myself and my reality in any way I could, numbing the pain that I was experiencing. And so the substances were my solution, right? Like,
coping mechanism.
Yeah. And so when I hit rock bottom, amongst my family bold enough to not only love me enough to say you need help, but to then actually step up and make some of the decisions for me, because I literally was in such a state I couldn't even make those decisions myself. And I accepted and went to rehab.
So they basically did an intervention on you and said, Charlie, you're not okay, you need help.
Yeah.
And how did that feel when they hit you with that? Because you were in South Africa or Zimbabwe then, right?
I was,
Yeah.
You know what, it's a very weird experience of relief and like embarrassment, like just mortified that like this is where I am, this is what state I'm in, and this is what I'm making other people around me have to do, like have to step in and support me. And the relief of being like, finally somebody's like, this has got to end.
So there was a knowing there that what you were doing wasn't okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Absolutely.
But also, like, how the hell do you stop that?
How do you get out? Like, it's like, how do you get out of the pit? Yeah.
So the story, like, I remember you telling me, like, how it all kind of happened. You literally kind of really had no idea what was happening. You had to leave your children for how long was it?
3 months.
3 months. Pack your bags. You're off.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it that it was like, that was easy. Like, that was incredibly difficult. And I was petrified. I was angry. I felt like I had been, because again, at the time, I was like, oh my God, you guys have all just labeled me as an alcoholic or or an addict.
It's
like,
judgment, right?
Yeah. So it felt really, really disgusting. I was disgusted that this was not only where I was at, but that's also what other people thought of me. And when I arrived at the rehab, like, essentially being like having all your stuff searched and then having to go through like the,
You're treated like the stereotypical drug addict. Like,
it was like you're a liar and you are going to do anything you can to try and like manipulate the situation, and so it was very confronting.
So New Year's Day, did you say?
29th of December.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Send the year out with a bang.
Yes.
And you flew there, right? So it wasn't even in the town where your family...
No, we flew down from flew from Harare down to Johannesburg and then another flight across to Durban and then like
literally
3-hour drive or something out to where with my two brothers and two of my brothers, and they were, it was, like a harrowing experience for me and for them, right? Like, can you imagine, like, as well, like as I say, the bravery, the courage for them to know that what was happening was not okay, and that like I was not okay, and
trusting that was the right thing to do. That's the ultimate, give you the love you need, not the love you want.
Wow.
Yeah. The whole story just fascinates me, like how brave they were and how trusting you are, to see and just, and then to see you on the other side of it was like probably the hardest thing that all of you ever had to do, and the most rewarding. And it could have gone one or two ways, right? Like it really,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's was a big gamble, right? But I think what was so evident in the scenario was I was just like, I was so overwhelmed. Do you know what I mean? Like when you can't even make simple decisions, it was just like I actually like gave up. Do you know what I mean? Like I gave up trying to. I had been trying for more than 2 decades to live life better, to feel better, to live differently, and how I was doing it was not getting better. And I think there was that realization a few days after, you know, my siblings all did an intervention on me, and like I had some time to kind of like consider what should I do, and I was trying to look into, and I remember phoning my brother Nick and just being like, just you do it, you decide. I can't, you know. So just handing over completely, and just going, actually, like I'm done trying to do it my way. I want some help.
Which is huge for you. Like when my experience of you prior to, I was always slightly intimidated by you, to be honest. You were so like, such a quite an intense person, but I loved you to bits, like from being a client, and we always had great conversations, but you were very assertive, and like you knew what you wanted, and it was kind of like, you know, like even prescribing skincare and things, it's like I was the expert, but I felt like I'm like, shit, I'm just, okay, like we're doing, this is what you want, this is what we'll do, and that's got a lot to say about me, not about you, right? But for you to be able to go from being in control of your life in terms of like your business and your family, and like things run like this, and we've got systems and processes and whatever, to just be completely let go and go whatever, like surrender is the word that comes, which is probably something you've never done before in your life. So talk about going in the deep end, right?
Yeah, and you know, surrender was then a bloody constant theme in my time in treatment too, because it was
and then being in that environment, you also had no choice.
Holy moly!
Give us a little like snapshot into what that 3 months was like. Like you weren't in some fancy resort. Like
no.
Let's be clear on where you were.
No, and I was in treatment with 34 other alcoholics and addicts, all like at various stages of going through their treatment and the 12-step program themselves, and and we all had to live as a big community in this big house, and all have like duties in the house, and all be helping out and, you know, contributing, and it was a hell of an experience, being stripped of all of your like luxury is the word that comes up for me, but you know, so I had no technology.
So no phone. You got to talk to your children
once a week.
For how long?
On a Sunday for 25 minutes.
Yeah, right. That was it. Yeah.
And so like very much just with yourself and with these other human beings around you, and learning to be present, right? Like be where you are.
You're like the opposite.
But I was like, what massive contrast to the busyness.
Filling every minute to having like all the minutes open.
Oh my gosh. You know.
Well, obviously you had things to do in there, like the actual program, but like a lot of spare time, I'd imagine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you know, it's an incredibly humbling experience to kind of go back to basics, and to go back to you know, even like the discipline of how a meeting works, where you just sit and be quiet and listen to somebody else share, and you're not allowed to interrupt or like cross share, it's called, you know, like speak back into people's story, or you're just going to be quiet, and then, you know, if you want to share, you speak up and you share. And it's just even going back to like a lot of those basics of actually sitting and listening quietly to somebody else, and you know, of course I was very stubborn at first to it, because it was like, you know, listen for the similarities, not the differences, and I was like, don't tell me what to do. I listen for all the differences, you know, like, so I was incredibly rebellious is kind of the word, you know. I didn't want to, denial, right, is what we call it, is in recovery too. It's like I was just in denial. I didn't want to I really avoided, for the first sort of week or 10 days, I really avoided wanting to engage with this. Like really like going, this is where I am and this is what's happening. You know, I'm going to get on with it. I was like, nope, no.
I'll fight it. I'm going to fight it.
I'm going to fight this. You know?
Which clearly doesn't go that well
No.
for very long.
And, you know, there's those moments where you suddenly go a bit, like, what am I fighting for? I was like, oh, okay. Oh. The life I was living was clearly so uncomfortable. For myself, for my husband, for my children, for my siblings, people that like, who were close enough to me to really see the struggle that was going on. So what was I holding on to? You know, like I was going to be battling it out for the, what?
These limitations. And we do this, and I do this sometimes in my own life. You know, we all do it. We fight for our limitations, and it's having that, being able to have the awareness and the inquiry into like, hang on a second, if I could put this much passion into sticking up for my excuses, imagine if I could put that into the reasons why, or like into my actually taking action towards making the change.
I think that's what flipped the switch for me, was that suddenly I was like, hang on, this is not a punishment, this is an opportunity.
Yes.
Like, this is not, you're broken, this is, wake up.
Wow.
You know,
what
like
a realization.
like, yeah.
How deep were you into the rehab when this happened?
Oh, I'd say that sort of 10-day mark of like,
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Thank
was like,
goodness, you don't get to month 2 and it only just happened then.
yeah. Exactly. But you know, so turning it around, right? Like that was the mindset shift of like, okay, hang on, I've got all of this time now suddenly. You know, my husband was looking after my children, my business partners were aware of that I wasn't working, like I'd handed over all my, and suddenly it was like, actually, this is it, right? Like if you want your life to be different, here's the shot, right? Like, yeah, and I turned it around. Obviously not alone, right?
No.
Like had an incredible, my sponsor or counselor in treatment, like the fellows around me, like the beautiful experience of recovery and being there is that I saw people who were towards the end of their treatment, like had done their 12th step and they were like floating along, like all serene, and I was like, what do you, give me some of that, you know, like I'm got the monkey mind and I'm all agitated and, you know, my body and everything about me is, and then these other people are just walking and I was like, I want whatever that is, hand it to me.
Yeah.
Right, cool, here you go, here's the process. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I'm grateful that my determination kicks in, and once I can see the intention, I can see the why, I'm like, okay, I'm all in.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah. So I went all in.
Amazing. So cool. And what was it like when you were released or when you came out? Like
Oh, it was a little bit like being released.
you can go now.
Yeah, you may drive out of these gates.
Did your brothers come to get you?
No, so I flew back from South Africa by myself, but I had a halfway point where my brothers came down from Zim and spent a weekend with me in South Africa. And yeah, I think that was a really special few days. Like it was to see them again, to see them see me and see how well I was looking. I could see by their faces that they were just like, and the relief, you know, like that, like, because obviously up until then, like I was just focused on me, right? Like it was all happening to me, and it was all about me.
Forget about
and, like,
everybody over there.
you know, didn't like, and you know, to be able to then share with them their story, their experience of what it was like to get me there and what happened when they left, and then for them to see the changes in me, I think was a very special moment of like relief, right? Like it's like, oh my God, what goodness, like for all of us,
Yeah.
that, you know, and to share so much gratitude with them for like what they'd done for me, you know. Yeah, it's some of those points in life where you're like, oh my God, this is what real abundance and like wealth, or like what it truly means to feel like things that matter, like, and yeah, seeing the love and experiencing the love from my brothers, and then my cousin came down to see me as well, and to feel so loved, despite thinking and feeling like I'm the worst person in the world. Yeah, it's a powerful experience, and it's, I talk about I was loaned belief and love. Like, people believed in me and loved me enough to be like, you can do this, and you can change your life, and you can turn things around. And I didn't necessarily believe that, or even want to, if I'm totally honest, that at some points, I just didn't want to be around anymore. So to be loved enough that, other people lifted me up, and helped me change my life.
Having that self-belief is huge, right? And sometimes, like you just said, you don't have it for yourself. You have to borrow it from somebody else.
Yeah. For quite a while.
Yeah.
Quite a while. And then there's something that just happens where you just break free from it. Like it was, it flicked from like that. I think it's really the self-centered experience of life, where it was just like, well, you don't know how hard it is for me, you don't know how hard this all is and how terrible I feel, to like flipping it around, being like, I want to show up for other people, I want to have a positive impact, I want to be around, like, it was that real like inward facing to suddenly outward facing. And imagining returning to my children was a big part of the motivation, to do the work, to do it thoroughly, and to return different. Like I was like, I don't want to go back and this to have all been a waste, because I haven't really done the work that's required.
And it's the the short-term cost versus the long-term cost, right? Like it cost them having 3 months without their mum while you were away, right? But like if you didn't do that, or you came back and hadn't done what was needed for you, it potentially could be a lot longer of them not having their mum, a present mum. Yeah, so it's changed not just your life, but everybody that around you.
Yeah, and I think they, like the motivation there was like I unfortunately had a really difficult relationship with my dad after my mum passed away, and his coping and workaholic, alcoholic like structure, and how that impacted my relationship with him, and how I felt about my dad was excruciating. And I think it was part of some of the deepest guilt and shame of realizing where I was, that I had basically become him. And I loathed him so much. Yeah, I loathed him so much for those exact things, and then I had become that. Yeah, it's really, I can't put into words how disgusted with myself I felt, like how ashamed I was. And again, it's that process of releasing the resentment I held for him, seeing my part in it, and releasing him and myself. Like, because once I released the judgment I had on him, I softened and released the judgment I had on myself. And like it freed me. Because we all are imperfect, we all make mistakes, we all have struggles. And the bravest thing I've ever done is accept that I was struggling, and accept the help that I needed help.
Take that responsibility, right?
Yeah, and so, you know, to come back to my kids, like, it was like, there was just, I was like, hang on, do I want the same destiny? Do I want to keep going along this track and have a dysfunctional relationship with my kids and myself? Because at the end of the day, like, what you're doing to yourself too, it's like what I'm doing to others, but what I'm doing to myself as well. It's like, it's just non-negotiable. So it just shut the door on going back. It's like, I've burnt that bridge. I didn't even just shut a door, I burnt that fucking bridge. It was like, nah,
Not an option.
not an option. So it would just keep moving forward. And so as I tackled more of the deeper, more difficult things, it was like there was just no turning back. It was like, this is, you know, and as you start to get the relief from doing the work, like, I think it's, you know, we talk about it, the paradox of transformation is like, the thing that you're avoiding the most is the doorway to what you desire the most. And so, you know, stopping, actually looking at myself, actually being able to come to terms with, you know, how I had been living, what I had been doing. I was like, hang on, now I'm freeing myself from this.
Yeah. And it's certainly not easy, right? Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's kind of something we talk about a lot, is that if it's uncomfortable, or if you don't want to, it means you must.
Yeah. That's the thing, that if you ignore that, or if you avoid it, it'll just keep dragging you down. It'll just keep, you know, unraveling you.
Absolutely. And if you think you can just keep ignoring it, you know, whether it's a drinking problem, or whether it's some part of your relationship that you don't like and you don't want to address, or whether it's your own insecurities or whatever, the more you ignore it, it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and consumes you more and more and more, until you're forced to address it in your instance.
Yeah. Yes, it would be nice to have had a story that was like, I came to the realization that I needed to do something different, but like, that wasn't my story, right? Like, I kept coping with, and, you know, dealing with, and just dealing with as in ignoring the root cause, right? Like, because the drinking and the drugs and the overworking and all of the things on that, like, the external stuff is not really, those are the solutions to the inner problem, inner problem of the disconnect from myself, from the abandonment of myself. That's the root cause of, like, the issue, right? And until I was prepared to stop and look at those things and really start to, you know, unearth some of the things that seemed like they were going to be so uncomfortable, it was like, actually, I'm struggling because I'm not meeting my own needs. I'm not looking after myself.
That's that misalignment, right? Like, when you ignore your own core needs and wants for long enough, like, it just feels, that's why you feel that awful stuck feeling, or whatever it might be. It's that you can't ignore it forever, right?
No. And why? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't. I look back now and I just think it's like, why was I would go to such lengths to do anything but that, you know?
Because you didn't know how much it was going to free you.
Yeah, and how much, you know, story and fear I had around what it was all going to entail or mean. And none of that was true, do you know? And I'm reminded of it again and again, like, all the time, that, you know, the stories my mind will tell me or try and hold me back with they're not. There's no fact in it. There's no, and the evidence, in fact, when I question it, the evidence is of the opposite. Is almost 100% of the time there. So, you know, a spiritual awakening, they call it, and that's certainly what happened to me. And then suddenly I was one of those serene people floating around the house that others were, as new people were coming in and arriving, and all edgy and, you know, scratchy, and at that desperate kind of phase, it was like, oh my gosh, like, hang on, that was me. And that seeking, like, an external solution to an internal problem. You know, and then I think once that was all cracked open for me, I just became, as I do, just hungry for more. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like,
You didn't
what
stop there.
else?
Yeah.
What else is possible? Because, you know, I don't have. It's not even like. It's not that I don't, you know, drink alcohol anymore or smoke weed, or it's I don't need to. Like it's. Those were my. Like that's how I unwind and relax at the end of the day, or have fun, or, you know, celebrate or commiserate, or. And now it's like, no, it's not. It's just it's like it's lifted. That need or that urge has been lifted from me, and I'm so grateful because. It was so detrimental to me.
It's not even the substance itself for you, it was the need for the substance, and you've got rid of that.
And then what that was actually doing to my mental health, what it was actually doing, thinking I was seeking those moments of relief, and there were moments, and then it was just turmoil, you know, and so breaking free from that cycle and knowing that like now I have so many other tools and things that I use when I start to feel stressed out or overwhelmed or whatever it is, but it's not even like instead of, it's just those are just, you know, now I know that like when something is like occurring outside of me that starts to make me feel a certain way, I can begin to do something about that without it becoming completely overwhelming and you know, turn my day upside down.
Super powerful. Yeah. And if you could go back to like right before you went over to Zim, like before you knew that this was all going to happen, when that version of you was really struggling and it was feeling really tough, what would you tell her now if you could go back and give her a little message?
I guess I'd say to her, it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to get some help. Yeah, I think I believed that I needed to do it all myself. And I believed that if I needed help, then I was even more broken than I thought I was already. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the mask was, you know, the mask of strength and having it all together was so familiar. It had been on for such a long time, like pretty much from when my mum died when I was 14. It was like, that was just my identity. And so it felt terrifying that I might not be okay, and that I actually, needed some help.
Yeah, beautiful. And to be able to actually take that mask off, put it down and leave it there, right?
Yep, I don't need that anymore.
And it's almost like a sense of gratitude for that version of you, to leading you to that point, because without her, you wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah. I mean, there were many. Like I can look back now to a few years before actually even going to Zimbabwe and seeing the golden thread, we call it, where it was like those moments where it was like, oh, actually I could still work remotely. Oh, hang on, that might be an idea, you know, like, I could go in and spend some time in Zimbabwe with my brothers and with their families and protect my girls there. And, you know, it was these little threads that stepped me closer and closer to going and living amongst like my family, and what that exposed for me about not only like that how I was living was not okay for me, it was not okay for my children, it wasn't even you know, it was eroding my marriage, it was costing me everything, and like, yeah, I wouldn't have changed it by myself. I needed the help of others, and I slowly, essentially, took myself to that place where I could then receive that help.
Amazing. So brave to share your story, and people often say that, right?
Yeah.
How brave you are. But it's just the reality, and what you've done is turned your pain into purpose, as people say, and now we're here to share what you've been through, so that we can help other people, not just in recovery, but we're all essentially in one shape or another coping, using whether it's emotions to cope or whatever, social media, like we've all got a barrier to what it is that we actually want to achieve, and so it's not just about recovery, right? Like the work that we do.
Yeah, it's
actually.
I've just got the truck version,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like we laugh about, and not everybody needs a truck, and it's for me the underlying thing is like I was ignoring my own intuition, myself, like what I truly wanted, and I was chasing the dream that I perceived, or the success that I understood was what was required of me, or what made me be of value or be good enough, or all of those stories that I had learned. And when my blessing is I achieved so many of those things, and then it didn't scratch the itch. It didn't give me the feeling that I thought it was going to give me. And so I hit rock bottom, and that's the blessing I got. And so